It just, you can't comprehend that anybody would be that evil.
December 26th, 1996. Christmas had just passed. Most families in Boulder, Colorado were waking up to leftover turkey and the warmth of holiday joy. But inside one home on 15th Street, a mother's scream shattered the morning silence. A 6-year-old girl was missing. A ransom note sat on the kitchen stairs. And within hours, what began as a kidnapping would become one of the most controversial murder investigations in American history. They told the public it was an intruder. They pointed fingers at the parents. They theorized about accidents and cover-ups. But nearly 3 decades later, no one has been charged. No arrest has been made. And the truth remains buried beneath layers of evidence, speculation, and unanswered questions. Before we begin, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about this case. And you won't want to miss a single detail. This is the story of JonBenét Ramsey, a little girl who loved performing, who sparkled on stage, and whose life was stolen in the most unthinkable way. This is Crime Chronicle. To understand what happened that December morning, you have to understand who JonBenét Ramsey was. Not the headlines, not the tabloids, the real child behind the photographs. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990. Her first name was a combination of her father's names, JonBenét, and her middle name came from her mother, Patsy. From the moment she entered the world, she was loved, cherished, the baby of the family, with an older brother named Burke who was 9 years old at the time of her death. The Ramseys weren't just any family. John Ramsey was a successful businessman, president of Access Graphics, a computer services company. Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen herself, Miss West Virginia 1977, was a devoted mother who poured her energy into her children's lives. And JonBenét? She was magnetic, bright blonde hair, sparkling eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. She loved performing, singing, dancing, and yes, she competed in child beauty pageants, winning titles like Little Miss Colorado and Colorado State All-Star Kids Cover Girl. But here's what the media often missed. JonBenét was also just a regular kid. She went to kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School in Boulder. She played with friends. She had a childhood. She was 6 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. The Ramseys lived in a large Tudor-style home in one of Boulder's affluent neighborhoods. From the outside, everything looked perfect. A successful family, a beautiful home, a life that others might envy. But on the day after Christmas in 1996, that illusion of perfection would be shattered forever. December 26th, 5:52 in the morning. Patsy Ramsey walked down the spiral staircase of her home, preparing to wake the children for an early morning flight to Michigan. The family had spent Christmas Day celebrating, opening presents, visiting friends, enjoying the holiday. JonBenét had gone to bed around 9:30 the night before. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. But as Patsy descended those stairs, she found something that made her blood run cold. 3 pieces of paper, handwritten, laid out on the wooden steps. A ransom note. The note was addressed to John Ramsey. It claimed to be from a small foreign faction. It demanded $118,000, the exact amount of John's recent work bonus, for the safe return of his daughter. The writer warned the family not to call police, not to tell anyone, or JonBenét would be beheaded. Patsy screamed for John. Together, they raced to JonBenét's bedroom on the 2nd floor. The bed was empty. Their daughter was gone. At 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey called 911.
What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? Please.
Her voice was
Okay,
frantic,
what's your name?
desperate. "We have a kidnapping," she told the dispatcher. "There's a ransom note. Please, you need to send someone." Within minutes, Boulder police arrived at the scene. Officers began securing the home, looking for signs of forced entry, searching for clues. Friends and family members were called. Pastor Roll Hoverstock from the Ramseys Church came to provide support. The house quickly filled with people, contaminating what would later be recognized as a crime scene. John Ramsey was told to search the house again, to look for anything unusual, anything that might help find his daughter. And that's when the unthinkable happened. At approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon, more than 7 hours after the initial 911 call, John Ramsey opened the door to a small wine cellar in the basement. There, covered with a white blanket, was JonBenét. She wasn't breathing. Her lips were blue. A white cord was tied around her neck. Her wrists were loosely bound. She had a piece of duct tape covering her mouth. John Ramsey carried his daughter's body upstairs, contaminating critical evidence in the process. JonBenét was pronounced dead at the scene. The kidnapping had never been real. JonBenét had been in the house the entire time. And now, the investigation would take a very different turn. What happened to JonBenét Ramsey? The autopsy revealed horrifying details. She had suffered a massive skull fracture, a blow to the head so severe it cracked her skull in 2 places. She had been strangled with a garrote, a crude device made from a cord, and a broken paintbrush handle. Patsy's paintbrush, taken from her art supplies in the basement. The medical examiner determined that JonBenét had also been sexually assaulted. The cause of death: asphyxiation by strangulation, associated with craniocerebral trauma. But here's where the case becomes a labyrinth of contradictions. The ransom note, 3 pages long, written on paper from a notepad found inside the Ramsey home. The pen used? Also from inside the house, later returned to its holder. Practice notes were discovered in the same notepad, suggesting the writer had made several attempts before settling on the final version. The note itself was unusual. Ransom demands are typically short, direct. This one was lengthy, almost theatrical. It referenced movies. It contained oddly specific instructions. And that ransom amount, $118,000, matched John Ramsey's bonus almost to the dollar. How would an intruder know that? Handwriting experts were brought in. Out of 73 people whose handwriting was examined during the investigation, only one person could not be eliminated as the author: Patsy Ramsey. But there was more. Police found an open basement window, a potential entry point for an intruder. There was a suitcase positioned beneath it, possibly used as a step. Unidentified DNA was found in JonBenét's underwear and beneath her fingernails. DNA that didn't match anyone in the Ramsey family. So what really happened? 2 theories emerged, and they would tear the investigation and public opinion apart. Theory 1. An intruder broke into the home, possibly someone who attended the Ramseys' Christmas party days earlier and knew the layout of the house. This person hid inside, waiting for the family to fall asleep. They attempted to kidnap JonBenét, but something went wrong. Maybe she screamed. Maybe she fought back. The intruder killed her, staged the scene, wrote the ransom note to buy time, and escaped through the basement window. Theory 2. Someone inside the home was responsible. Perhaps it was an accident, a blow to the head during a moment of anger or frustration. Perhaps JonBenét had wet the bed, a common occurrence for the 6-year-old. The ransom note and staging were created to cover up what really happened, to make it look like an outside attack. Boulder police focused almost exclusively on the parents. Statistically, when a child is murdered in their own home, it's usually someone close to them, a family member, a caregiver. The odds were 12 to 1. John and Patsy Ramsey hired lawyers. They gave limited interviews. They appeared on television, proclaiming their innocence, but refused to sit down for formal police interrogation for months. To investigators, this looked like guilt. To the Ramseys, it was self-preservation. The case became a media circus. Every detail was dissected. The beauty pageant photos of JonBenét were plastered across magazine covers and television screens. People formed opinions without evidence. The court of public opinion rendered its verdict long before any legal proceedings could begin. And through it all, a little girl's death was becoming entertainment. The Boulder Police Department was overwhelmed. They had never handled a murder case like this. Mistakes were made from the very beginning. The crime scene wasn't properly secured. Visitors walked through the house, touching surfaces, moving items. Potential evidence was contaminated or lost. The ransom note should have been a critical piece of forensic evidence, but it had been handled by multiple people before police arrived. Tension grew between local police and the district attorney's office. Some investigators believed the Ramseys were guilty. Others weren't so sure. The case became politicized. Personal careers were on the line. In 1998, Detective Steve Thomas resigned from the Boulder Police Department, writing a letter that accused the district attorney of refusing to prosecute the case properly. He later wrote a book claiming Patsy Ramsey was responsible for her daughter's death. But then, in 1999, a grand jury was convened. For 13 months, they heard testimony. They reviewed evidence. And in October of that year, they voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey. Not for murder, but for child abuse resulting in death and being accessories to a crime. However, District Attorney Alex Hunter refused to sign the indictment. He stated there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute successfully. The indictment was sealed, kept secret from the public for more than a decade. The Ramseys moved away from Boulder. They tried to rebuild their lives. Patsy fought ovarian cancer. John Ramsey, now in his 80s, continues to advocate for advanced DNA testing. Technology has evolved dramatically since 1996. Genetic genealogy, the same technique used to catch the Golden State Killer, could potentially identify the source of the unknown DNA found on JonBenét's clothing. In recent years, there have been reports of progress. Law enforcement sources have suggested that new leads are being investigated. The Boulder Police Department has stated publicly that the case is still active, still open, and that they remain committed to finding answers. But here's the painful truth. Every year that passes makes justice less likely. Witnesses die, memories fade, evidence degrades. The window for solving this case is closing. Burke Ramsey, who was 9 years old when his sister died, has largely stayed out of the public eye. In 2016, he gave a rare interview on the Dr. Phil show, defending his family and expressing frustration with the conspiracy theories that have plagued him his entire life. He later sued CBS for a documentary that suggested he was involved in JonBenét's death, eventually settling the lawsuit. John Ramsey has remarried. He's tried to move forward, but he's never stopped seeking answers about what happened to his daughter that December night. The case has spawned countless books, documentaries, television specials, and theories. Some people remain convinced the parents were involved. Others believe an intruder is responsible. Some think the truth lies somewhere in between, in details we may never fully understand. What we do know is this. A 6-year-old girl was brutally murdered in her own home. The investigation was flawed from the beginning. The media turned a tragedy into a spectacle. And somewhere out there, a person knows exactly what happened to JonBenét Ramsey. Whether that person will ever be held accountable remains one of the most haunting questions in true crime history. JonBenét Ramsey should be 34 years old today. She might have gone to college, started a career, fallen in love, lived a full life. Instead, she's frozen in time, forever 6 years old, forever the little girl in the beauty pageant photos, smiling for the camera, unaware of the darkness waiting just around the corner. Her case reminds us that justice isn't always swift, that sometimes, despite our best efforts, the truth remains elusive. That real life doesn't always provide the neat resolutions we see on television. But it also reminds us that we cannot forget that every unsolved case represents a person who mattered, a family who deserves answers, a community that needs closure. So what do you think really happened to JonBenét Ramsey? Do you believe it was an intruder? Do you think someone in the family knows more than they've said? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss this case respectfully, thoughtfully, and with the understanding that real people were affected by this tragedy. If you want to see more deep examinations of unsolved cases, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We bring you true crime stories that matter, told with the depth and respect they deserve. Until next time, this is Crime Chronicles. Remember, the truth is worth pursuing, even when it's difficult to find.